I remember the story of Benjamin Franklin leaving the Constitutional Convention. He was asked the question, what have you done for us? What have you got for us? What form of government do you have? And remember his response was, we've given you a republic if you can keep it. We are in jeopardy of losing our republic. At this point, federalism has been turned on its head. States are subservient to the federal government. States are no longer equals in our government. States must be restored to their proper role of equal sovereign partners in the government of this country. They're not there now. They've lost it. We've lost it. Responding to some of the concerns, I'm not saying the Constitution is broken. The Constitution is not broken. But Congress is broken. And the President is broken. And the Supreme Court is broken. And the only way we can repair these functions of the federal government is through a constitutional amendment. They will never voluntarily back down and change their course. They will continue to pursue expansion of their power, unchecked. There is no check. The only check afforded in the Constitution is the one in Article 5, a Convention of the States, where the founders said, we foresee your problem. We know that despite all of the precautions we've taken, you may still face the problem of a federal government that grows out of control. Here's your remedy. States, call a convention, come together, and talk. Alexander Hamilton said, ultimately, he says, power is almost always the rival of power. The only way to check the power of the federal government is with the power of the states. We're the ones who have it. No one else has it. No one else can exercise it. Only we can. Alexander Hamilton said, state governments can adopt a plan of opposition and afford complete security against invasions of the public liberty by the national authority. They can readily communicate with each other in different states, unite their common forces for the protection of their common liberty. That's all a convention of states is. It's states meeting together, talking with each other, discussing ways that we can limit the federal government. There's nothing draconian, there's nothing dark, there's nothing dangerous. It's just states getting together and talking. We attended a simulated convention of the states to prove that this can be done without harm to the Constitution, without harm to our rights. Everyone here in this body has a great love for the Constitution. We're all concerned with the intrusions of the federal government. At this simulated convention, we had delegates from all 50 states, and they were good, conscientious people just like we are, who care just as much as we do, who love the Constitution just as much as we do, who are prepared to meet. They are watching Utah today, watching to see what Utah does with this Article 5 resolution. We need to continue the momentum across this country and come to the point where states can meet together, talk together to address the federal government and limits on the federal government. That's all we're asking. There's nothing dangerous about it. If you don't like what comes out of that convention, defeat it. We don't have to ratify what comes out of it. That's the ultimate protection. Our mission here is to protect the Constitution and to repair its institutions by limitations on power. Power checks power. We've got the power. It's the founders' fail-safe. They've given it to us, and we need to use it. Now, mention was made that Utah is sovereign. Nothing to worry about. Utah is sovereign. Well, you can run around the state proclaiming Utah's sovereignty all you want, but that doesn't change the fact that we're still down on bended knee with hand out, asking for federal money to comply with federal programs. Federal government dictates to us what our law is. You count the number of bills that come forward during this session. You count all the numbers where we're complying with federal law so that we can get federal money. Utah sovereign? In your dreams. We have lost our sovereignty. We are no longer sovereign. If you want to be a sovereign state, you vote yes on this petition and get us a convention of states where we can put checks on the federal government. A countermand amendment, I would love to have a countermand amendment. The only way we're going to get there is through this Convention of States. In fact, I passed a countermand amendment at the simulated convention. If you want to give that tool to the states, where 30 states can override federal law and the federal departments start to look over their shoulder and say, hey, the states have got a check on us, we better do better, we better watch what we're doing. This is the only way to do it. This is the way to do it. If you come up with a single countermand amendment, I tried that 3 years ago. I couldn't get it out of committee. This is the form to take. This is the movement to join right here and right now. The point was made that if we don't like the federal government, let's change our federal representatives. Let's change Congress. Well, which of our 6 representatives, congressmen, senators, would you trade out? Which one don't you like? I've heard all 6 of them run for office, as you have. All 6 of them said, well, I'm going to go back to Washington and I'm going to rein in the federal government. I'm going to cut federal spending. I'm going to return sovereignty to the states. It doesn't happen because they can't do it. Changing all 6 of them wouldn't make a difference. In a trial of the next 50 years, what's going to happen over that time is not less federal government, but more. Changing our federal delegation will make no difference. They are good people, responsible people. They're accountable to us, and they're representing us in a very exemplary way. Changing them will not change the structure and growth of the federal government. In conclusion, several of the emails I had accused me of treason because I would even think of changing the Constitution. I was accused of being a traitor to my country and violating my oath to uphold the Constitution. I plead innocent to the charge of treason, but if there is a crime here, it is the crime of voluntary servitude. Voluntary servitude to a federal master, and we're all guilty of the crime of doing nothing, indicted by our children and grandchildren who will look back under the burden of debt and lost liberty and demand to know why, when we had a chance to do something to follow the very remedy prescribed by our founders, we rejected it and chose to do nothing and chose to allow the federal government continue to grow. In conclusion, if you feel like there is no problem with the federal government, you've got food on the table, car in the garage, everything is good and dandy, then vote against this resolution. If you feel like there is a problem, but you fear the Constitution, you're afraid to follow the remedy provided by the founders, then vote against this resolution. But if you agree as I do, if you believe as I do, and as most Americans do, that the federal government is too big, too intrusive, and too expensive, and that you believe and trust in the Constitution, in Article 5, in the founders, in the remedy they gave us to protect their work and our liberties, then the proper remedy is a vote of yes on this resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Voting will now be open on House Joint Resolution 3. HJR 3, having received 45 yes votes, 29 no votes, passes this body and will be transmitted to the Senate for its consideration.
I've just met like the kindest, most welcoming people who have made me feel empowered.